Hey, welcome to The Juggle is Real. I'm Andryanna, and can I just be the first to say, as we're sort of getting towards the middle of August, it's kind of a weird time, Like I was reminded of this. I was laughing to myself because you know how you get your like Facebook memories and Instagram memories. So it showed this post that I shared a year ago, and the first slide literally just said mid-August is weird. Um, it's just like how I'm feeling as we approach that time again. We've got one foot still very firmly planted in the summer. We are swimming. We are definitely staying up later than we normally do. We've got visits with friends. We are sitting by the lake. But then kind of teetering, and the other foot, I'm sort of getting into like that back to school mode. It's like, who's growing, ordering indoor shoes, and like starting. I actually asked my son a couple days ago, like, what do you think you're going to want in your lunches this school year? And like looking at backpacks and thinking about their new routines and the schedules and the forms. And I realized, you know, yes, this is sort of an August thing, but it is a little bigger because it's kind of like living in that space between two things, between two seasons. Because, like, on the one hand, you want to soak up every single last drop of summer, but then the other part and the other side is like you want to be prepared, you want to feel ready, you want to be organized for what's coming next. And then somewhere in the middle, because of like this duality, it's like it just feels like you're kind of sucking at both. You're maybe not doing either of those things very well. And then maybe you've got yourself like you're watching your kids maybe while they're swimming or they're at soccer or baseball. And then you're kind of like mentally writing your grocery list, or you're fortunate to sit by a campfire, but then you're thinking about hockey schedules. And then you've looked around and you're thinking like, okay, wait, is summer pretty much over already? And so if that is you, I want to say, me too. But also, there is an actual reason that our brains do this. And so today I want to talk about it because I think it's been really helpful for me to understand what's happening. And then once we understand it better, we can give ourselves a little more grace and a lot of space to kind of really do both things, like enjoy the rest of this lovely fleeting season and feel prepared as we make our way into the next one. So if that sounds good, let's dive right in.
This is the Juggle is Real podcast. I hope you feel seen, that you realize your worth, lighten your load, and prioritize your own needs. As we hear from leading experts and well-known faces in the wellness, entrepreneurship, education, and motherhood space, I hope you gain insights, proven practices, and learn actionable tools to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. Most of all, I hope you find what you need to simplify, streamline, and supercharge your own journey of better balance and self-love. Are you with me? Let's get started.
So I just want to begin by saying like no like shade to August. I'm not like saying it's like not a good month, because it's this beautiful month. If you live in the north, the bugs have mostly gone, and that is a beautiful thing. But it does kind of feel strange emotionally, and I think we often assume that this year feels busy because like it is busy. But I also think it feels like that because it's a bit more complicated emotionally, And there is a term that psychologists use called anticipatory thinking. And it's, sort of like that our brains are constantly trying to predict what's coming next. And, if you're a mom, you're always trying to be like a few steps ahead. You know what I mean? And so honestly, I feel like that is not a flaw. That is a good thing. And because of this anticipatory thinking, humans have survived and we've evolved and we are where we are today. Our brains are just designed to be able to scan for what's ahead, and what needs attention, or what could possibly go wrong, or what is it that I need to remember. And as parents, as moms, like this is on a whole new level, right? Like this is like 10x amplified because we're not just thinking about ourselves and what our next steps are. We are mentally caring and thinking ahead for everyone else. We're thinking about the school supplies and what forms we have to fill and who hasn't had their dentist appointment yet, or, the lunches that are coming up and the sports and what those schedules are and who needs new shoes and just like all of those things, the invisible things that no one really sees from the outside. And there is research that shows that our brains naturally simulate future events because that planning and kind of knowing what's happening next, that reduces uncertainty. So, the anxiety can subside a little bit, or those like that nervousness. If we feel prepared, we can kind of move through those feelings a little bit easier. And so I guess I would say, like, our brains aren't trying to ruin this time. We're not trying to like take a big crap on August, but what we're really trying to do is protect ourselves for September. And so I feel like just knowing that is like, okay, I get it. That's cool. And it just, I don't know, it makes me feel a little bit better because it's reminding me that I'm not failing to enjoy what's happening now and, to be present, but I'm just doing what my brain literally thinks it has to do in order to survive. And so I feel like the problem isn't that we are preparing or starting to think about the next steps. I think the problem is when our minds move so far into September, into the fall, into back to school in that season, that what we have now in August disappears without us really even getting to live it and enjoy it. So this brings me to, some good news. I don't think we have to choose between the two of them, and it's not like black or white or one thing or another. And we're going to get into this, but it's like sort of like two things can be true, right? And there is a concept in psychology that comes from acceptance and commitment therapy, and it's called psychological flexibility. And that means that we have the ability to hold two things at the same time. Okay, so it literally is two things can be true. And so instead of thinking, I either have to be present or I have to get organized and like get totally ready for back to school, with psychological flexibility, we're saying, what if both are true? What if I can order the backpacks and then still like jump in the pool or like go to the beach afterwards? I can start labeling the school supplies and then go out to watch a beautiful summer sunset. I can start doing a little bit of meal prep, and we can still go for ice cream after baseball. So I think sometimes we feel like we put this pressure on ourselves that, like, if we are thinking ahead, if we are starting to make those preparations, somehow we are like rushing through it or we're not enjoying summer fully. But I feel like that's not true. I feel like preparing for what's next can actually give us more permission to enjoy where we are if we allow it, right? I think there's room for both. And to be honest, is this not the message that we all need to hear right here, right now, this week as we are moving through August? So this is like, okay, so we know two things can be true. We don't have to either just be preparing for school, for fall, for like September. We can do both things. This is where it's like, let's really like focus on and like just really like steep ourselves in the little moments because they do matter more than we think. And so when I was looking back on that Instagram post from last year, my advice was notice one thing. And I didn't really realize how much research there was behind that idea. I knew there was some, but like this kind of goes back to that, like that topic that we were discussing a couple episodes ago when we were looking at savoring. And the research there is like that there is like more positive experiences don't necessarily become the lasting memories because the negative experiences grab our attention naturally. And so the positive ones kind of need a little more help so that they can really kind of become ingrained in our brains. And Fred Bryant, who's one of the leading researchers on savoring, he describes it as just trying to be really intentional about noticing and appreciating the positive experiences like in the moment while they're happening. Not because it is perfect or because life is perfect. Like surely we know there's like a ton of crappy things happening at all times. But when we give a little more intention to it, when we can kind of savor it, it changes the experience. And Barbara Fredrickson's work on positive emotions tells us something pretty similar. Those moments of joy when we feel awe, when we're like really grateful and amused, and we feel those moments of connection, they don't just feel good, they actually broaden our thinking. They increase our resilience and they help build psychological resources over time. And I love that because it really does mean that the little moments matter. And isn't this beautiful for our children as well? It's like the popsicle and like talking them through it, like tasting the popsicle and actually like sitting there enjoying and really experiencing it, or like jumping off the dock, or literally like the pile of wet towels that I look at and I just think, oh my gosh, towels again. We are washing towels again. But that means that we had those fun memories of actually like swimming and like, getting wet and having that fun. Um, for me, it's like, okay, my coffee in the morning is like that sacred time before everyone wakes up. And can I just like sip it and enjoy it and just savor it, Or when like the kids are laughing at something silly, even if it's like, bathroom humor, which we have a lot of in my house, they're not just little things. These are the things that our brain can remember years later. And it's not because they were like the elaborate, like crazy experiences, but like they were really felt and like really savored in those moments. And one of the last things we talked about in the last solo episode was the idea of memory markers, right? So that phrase that I've been using to describe these moments that stand out in our minds when we look back on a season. So these are the experiences that are going to help tell the story of our summer. So what's interesting is the research on memory suggests we don't remember life like, one big long continuous movie. Our brains naturally organize our experiences into those meaningful events, and the moments that tend to stay with us are often the ones that are just more significant emotionally. They're just like a little different from the normal routine, or simply things that are just, we actually did take the time to be present enough to notice them. And so what I find is like just so beautiful about this is that when we're talking about something like memory markers, like they don't have to be big things. They're just maybe in ordinary things, but they're done in a way like when we can really like stop and be present for them. So it's like, yes, going to get ice cream, or like letting bedtime like slide a little later so you can go out and watch the sunset, or like the campfire when someone tells the same spooky story for like the 20th time, but everyone is like screaming or laughing or like sharing in it anyway. So jump in with your child when they ask you to jump in, enjoy the ice cream, enjoy the s'mores. Like those little moments become the stories that we're going to be telling and thinking back to. And like when your kids are describing their summer to their teachers, like these are the little things that they're going to pick out from the last few months. And I think that's such a beautiful and encouraging reminder, because if you're looking at your calendar and you're thinking like, oh, like we never made it to that, like on that big trip, or, like it's just not in our finances right now to be able to do like that big amusement park, or like, the children aren't necessarily collecting like this checklist of like all these fancy things. They really are collecting the moments and these little memory markers. So we're standing here, we've got one foot in summer and then one foot kind of in back to school in September. Maybe we don't need to ask ourselves, like, how do we check off all the things? It's like, well, what little memory markers do I want to create and experience and really enjoy? Not grand gestures or expensive outings, but just like these little moments that say, like, this is what summer is all about. And so, a few things that are helping me and has really been great for our summer, and I know I've been sharing it back since July, very beginning, is yes, the summer bucket list and our feelings list. And it's not because we filled it with extravagant adventures, because honestly, most of the things that we wrote down the very end of June were the things that we were probably going to do anyway, like going to the library, going out for ice cream, building the fort, making the s'mores, all of those little things. But having it written down has become a bit of a compass. And we still have a few things left. I will say my kids want to do a yes day, I'm gearing up for that emotionally and physically. Like, we're gonna have to have some ground rules, but super fun because instead of wondering, like, those moments that you have where it's like, I'm bored or I don't know what to do, you have these ideas, and the kids feel like they have ownership over their summer, and we get to check the things off, and it's so satisfying when you do. And it gives a little bit of structure without making, everything feel so scheduled. And that brings us to the feelings list because it's not always about doing, but like, how are we feeling? And so we still have a number of weeks to be able to, write even like three things down of what would be fun to experience this August and how do we want to feel. And maybe if you haven't had the opportunity to really like lean into those feelings, well, now we have this time where it's like, we still got time left. Let's lean into feeling connected or playful or being a bit lighter or like, focusing on like the calm and being curious with our kids. And like leaning into what that might be and what is a little tiny memory marker about that instead of like a jam-packed day of like the beach and this and that and the other thing. Maybe it's like, hey, we're gonna go out on the deck and we're gonna like have a picnic and popsicles or like hit up the splash pad or like maybe instead of having to make dinner and clean up, it's like let's do pizza and we're gonna go to the park. So there's literally no mess in your house. And so chasing the feeling might actually matter more than focusing on the activity. And this is another reminder. I feel like I've been saying it all summer, but I need to be reminded. And the last thing I want to say is um, through what we're doing this summer, how I want to be feeling, and moving into the fall, where obviously wanting to be organized and prepared and not feel overwhelmed once back to school starts. I have started keeping a September parking lot, so to speak. So anytime I get a thought about back to school or what has to be done or like the to-do list where when it comes to the fall, I kind of park it in a specific spot. I write it down and yes, it's it's the notes app on my phone and it does have the most random of thoughts and the most silly of things. It's so funny if we go through that app, but I do have my September thoughts, like specific note there that I am coming back to. And this does come back to another topic that we've been really like coming back to since January, which is the Zygarnik effect, which is basically that those unfinished tasks, like when a thought pops into your head, if you don't do it right away, it stays mentally active. And so even if we're not like ordering the school shoes or the backpacks or the water bottles today, just writing it down or putting it in the app, it does reduce the need for our brain to keep bringing it back and keep rehearsing it over and over. And so it can mentally close the tab in your brain, which is really helpful. And so when you suddenly remember that your child, I don't know, needs more socks or more undies, you don't keep carrying it. And it's not just like weighing on you while you are trying to enjoy those moments, while you are at the beach or doing whatever it is. Pop it in the app, write it down, let your brain rest so that it can focus on being present and in the moment. So, as we close things out for this episode, I'm feeling like this week we don't have to stop thinking about back to school. We don't need to totally X September out of our brains, but we don't need to rush through August. Maybe we can let them just like gently sit side by side. We can have one foot in summer, one foot in fall, because the truth really is that yes, September is coming, back to school is coming. It always does. And I'm going to tell you, somehow the backpacks will get packed, even if you're forgetting the highlighters or one or two things. The lunches do get made and the routines will come back to us. And we have some great episodes coming up that are going to support us in getting back into those routines. But for today, if your kids are still asking to go for a swim or jump in the lake, or you want to like catch fireflies, or like they're eating watermelon with sticky hands and like dripping it all over the place. Like, I personally do not want to miss that. And I hope you don't either. So here is my little invitation for you this week. Yep, go out and order the backpack or book in the haircut. Grab the pencils while you're out anyway, and then stay outside for like 10 extra minutes after dinner. Go for that little walk with your family, even if it's just around the block. Watch one more sunset and say yes to the swim. Jump in, get your hair wet, eat the ice cream, because you don't have to choose between being prepared and being present. You really can do both. Two truths, zero lies here. Yeah, two things can be true. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much for listening and spending part of your day with me. And if this episode did resonate with you, I would love to hear from you. You can find me on Instagram, send me a DM at Andryanna G. There is an email address in the episode description, in the show notes. Send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. And share this with a friend, someone else who's kind of like in the in-betweens, in this transition between summer and fall. And if you can, tell me what's like one little summer moment that you're still looking to soak in before the season changes. My hope really is that we all remember that we're not behind, we are not doing it wrong, and we don't have to choose between preparing for what's next and also anticipating and being present for what's here. So I will be back next week with a brand new episode, and I can't wait to see you then. But until we meet again, take good care.